Even as India is reaching out diplomatically to the entire world to explain its position in terms of Pakistan's aggression and repeated terrorist strikes and no action coming in from Pakistan's side, there's one voice that has been very vocal on the entire issue, whether it is Kashmir or the role as far as Pakistan is concerned in spreading terror. Joining us now is Conservative Member of Parliament in the UK, Mr. Bob Blackman. Thank you so much, Mr. Blackman, for joining us. In the wake, sir, of what we have seen, that has happened in Pahalgam, you have been one of the most vocal politicians, even in the past, on the Kashmir issue. As you're aware, India has seen this tragic terror strike that has happened. And to begin with, what are your observations on the current situation, especially in light of the heightened tensions between India and Pakistan?
Well, let me first, of course, continue to express my condolences to the families and the victims of this terrible terrorist atrocity. It's very, very easy for people around the world to be expressing their condolences and indeed condemning the terrorist attacks. My worry is, as Israel has found out when they suffered a terrible terrorist atrocity on the 7th of October 2023, everyone expressed their sympathy at the time, but when they went after the perpetrators of the terrorist atrocities, all of a sudden people changed their views. I'm really concerned that around the world people will express these sympathies with India and indeed the victims. But when now India, who quite rightly must pursue the terrorists, as Prime Minister Modi has said, to the ends of the earth and make sure they are punished for the dreadful atrocities they've committed, and also making sure that those that supported them, that back them, are actually face justice as well. I hope that we can use in the United Kingdom our help and support and our intelligence services to ensure that those terrorists are apprehended, they're brought to justice, and indeed they reveal the details of those people that have supported them. Yeah. Yesterday in the UK Parliament, I used the opportunity to say that Pakistan's responsibility in this must be to ensure that all of those terrorist bases along the line of control in the part of Kashmir that they illegally occupy must be removed. And if they're not removed, then we in the United Kingdom should give full support to India to make sure they are removed by whatever means necessary. The silence of Pakistan on this issue, I think, has been truly mind-numbing and also very, very revealing, because we know that these terrorists were well-equipped, they're well-disciplined, well-controlled, they deliberately sought out Hindu and I believe at least one Christian man for systematic murder. They had very sophisticated weapons, which are not available for normal individuals to purchase. They was clearly supplied by an army, and the finger of suspicion points very strongly at the Pakistani military. So from that perspective, Pakistan's silence on this issue is very telling, in my judgment.
Absolutely. And, you're talking about support coming in from the UK. Now, if India is to, avenge what has happened, and if there is a conflict that were to break out between India and Pakistan, do you believe that the current government led by the Labour Party would stand firmly with India?
I think they will say all the right things at the moment. And indeed, the ministers, and obviously I don't speak for the government of the United Kingdom, I speak for the opposition, and at the moment, obviously in a personal capacity. The reality is this: we should be standing full square behind India. I suspect that once India does take military action, which I suspect it will, that is when the United Kingdom will start appealing for calm and taking the heat out of the situation and diplomatic means of resolving this. And the reality is these terrorists don't listen to calmness. They don't listen to fine words. They respond to action. And that's indeed what has to happen now.
Right. And while you have, of course, not minced your words when calling this a well-organized attack on the basis of religious identities, do you think that the gravity of this attack has been underplayed or not projected accurately in the global discourse? And the reason I ask you this is that there are several reports which talk about this as being gunmen, as being militants. There are very many international media outlets who are refusing to call it a terrorist attack, which is exactly what it is.
Well, there are many outlets that are calling these militants or calling them, as you say, gunmen or whatever. These are terrorists. These are terrorists that are well organised. They knew what they were doing. They systematically approached Hindu and, as I say, non-Muslim men and shot them in the head. I mean, this is not the work of some crazed individuals. This is systematic. This is deliberate aiming and targeting particular individuals. And it stems from a time from 1989 in the valley when the terrorists started to get organised. And indeed, the atrocities that the Kashmir Pandits suffered back in 1990 demonstrates that there was ethnic cleansing being attempted by these forms of terrorism. The Indian government has done a brilliant job, and the Indian military have done a brilliant job in suppressing this violence and this terrorism. But the aim here is very clear, and that's to prevent people from going to the valley, seeing the beauty of the valley, enabling businesses to operate, for employment to take place, and for the great culture of the area to be appreciated by tourists from all across the world. We know that, of course, already that many people have cancelled their visits because of this terrorism and the threat to security. In fact, I can tell you on the floor of the House of Commons yesterday, our Foreign and Commonwealth Office advice to travellers is that they should only go to Jammu by air, not go beyond Jammu, not go to the Kashmir Valley at all because of the security concerns. And when the United Kingdom is saying that, many other countries in the world will say the same thing. This is, of course, what the terrorists want to achieve, to actually stop normalization of that beautiful part of the world. I mean, I think I'm right in saying, but someone can correct me, I'm the last British MP to actually have visited Srinagar, and that's 9 years ago. And that really demonstrates, I'm afraid, the power that these terrorists have been able to bring to prevent many people from enjoying the beauty of the valley. And I think that's what we have to get back to. Now, you know, I think there are ways that this can actually be solved without military action. And if that can be the case, then fine. And as I've said, it's very simple. Pakistan military can make sure that those terrorist bases are removed. And if they are removed and they stop supporting them, training them, and encourage them to cross the line of control and commit atrocities, then actually the heat of the situation could go out of it. But whilst those terrorist bases are there is continuously the threat to normal business practices in the Kashmir Valley and to tourism in particular.
Well, unfortunately, the response from Pakistan is a stoic denial that these terror camps even exist, and they are actually choosing to blame it on India, saying that this is something that has happened over here. But let me come to the statement.
Well, I've also heard, by the way, on social media that people are calling it a false flag operation, that really these were Indian operatives seeking, which is absolutely mind-numbing. And I get to the point of saying, well, they would say that, wouldn't they? Frankly, these people are not to be trusted, and clearly the position in Pakistan is one of a failed state, and one that we have to continue to call out. Who's in charge and who's doing what is unclear, I think, to the rest of the world.
And also we've seen when British Sikh Labour MP Gurinder Singh Josan raised the issue, the Foreign Office Minister Hamish Falconer had reiterated UK's support for India's efforts to bring the perpetrators to justice. Interestingly, Pakistan's own Defence Minister Khwaja Asif has publicly acknowledged that Pakistan had harbored such terrorists and has been doing so, for many, many decades at the behest of United States in the West. In that context, do you believe that the UK Parliament would fully support India if it chose to pursue the perpetrators across the border, as it did in 2016 and 2019?
Well, I think you have to always listen to when ministers speak, the exact words that are used. The minister expressed sympathy for the victims and their families. He also expressed support for India and Pakistan to apprehend these terrorists. However, he stopped short of what I asked him to do, which is to accord with what Prime Minister Modi said, that every the terrorists would be pursued to the ends of the earth, and their backers would be brought to justice as well. He left it about the terrorists themselves And we know, and your viewers will know, that this was an organised operation. These 4 individuals didn't operate alone. They had a support network, and we believe clearly that it stems from Pakistan. Now, if Pakistani authorities are serious about doing something about this, then they must take action against those terrorists. And if they did, rounded them up, including their backers, and then had them over to India for appropriate justice to be done, then we might take them seriously. Unless we do, then I don't think that's going to be the case. Now, if we end up with a military operation between India and Pakistan, I'm far from convinced that the United Kingdom will give, in the current government, will give backing to that operation.
Well, that's a tragedy, isn't it? We've seen in the case of several attacks in the past, particularly the 26/11 attack in 2008, India gave dossier after dossier of information, but no action coming in from Pakistan's side. We've seen what's happened in subsequent attacks as well in Gurdaspur and Pathankot, where in fact Pakistan was engaged, but no action really, concrete action being taken as far as the terror emanating from their soil is concerned. And I also want to draw your attention to what Khwaja Asif has said, and I'm quoting him. He says that Pakistan was doing this dirty work for the West for decades. Your response to that statement?
Well, I think we hear that goes beyond the limit of credibility, frankly. There are always allegations that the West, in terms of different governments of different persuasions in different countries, have utilised Pakistan to almost to attempt to neutralise India's involvements in things. My stance has always been with India and making sure that basically this terrorism stops. There is a very simple solution to all this, and we could have the United Nations resolutions dating back to 1947. It actually instituted the Pakistani military forces could leave Kashmir, the princely state could be reunited, all those terrorist bases could be eliminated, and then the people of Jammu and Kashmir could enjoy the service of India as a whole. It's the crowning glory of India, as we know. And it's such a tragedy that this has been allowed to continue for so long, and so many terrorist atrocities committed by Pakistani-backed terrorists.
Right. What is your view, sir, on the recent protests that took place in London, which became controversial due to the use of provocative language and even gestures, particularly the throat-slitting gesture made by a Pakistani diplomat towards Indian protesters?
Well, my understanding of the individual that made the throat-slitting gestures is that he is a military attaché. I don't think he's the military attaché from Pakistan, but he's certainly a military attaché of some description. Clearly, I've seen the videos. I've seen the actions that he took. It's being investigated by the Metropolitan Police. In my judgment, someone who does that to members of the community in the United Kingdom should not be present in the United Kingdom. He's deliberately provoking people, and indeed, it could be said that he's committing death threats. Obviously, he's protected by diplomatic privilege in the United Kingdom, as all diplomats are. But I think it's very simple. Pakistan should either recall him, or the United Kingdom Foreign and Commonwealth Office should ask him to leave. And if he doesn't leave, then he should be made very clear he's no longer someone that we want to see in the United Kingdom. Equally, we've seen demonstrations outside the Indian High Commission. We've seen demonstrations outside the Pakistani High Commission. Most of those have been peaceful. Of course, people do want to express their opinions and demonstrate their views. There was quite clearly attempts by the Pakistani side, outside the Pakistani High Commission, to provoke the Indian demonstrators. I think several of whom may have, got very angry as a result of the provocation. And I know that a number of arrests were made. Obviously, that is a matter for the police and for our appropriate judicial system to deal with. I would suggest to all of my friends and people in the United Kingdom, you have the absolute right to protest, but please do so peacefully and don't be provoked by the Pakistanis into committing things that ends up it's both sides being equally to blame, because the reality is that we know who is to blame, and we want to make sure that those people are punished.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Blackman, for taking the time out and speaking to us here at Times Now.
Jai Hind.